This is episode 4, part 3, because I accidentally ended the video. But for number 15, Terrence's mom says that she thinks it's a very good possibility that Terrence can attend college. So, the painting teacher thinks that that he doesn't think that Terrence is necessarily capable of going to an art school and becoming like a professional artist. So he says that Terrence is good at following instructions, good at like taking orders. He's good at like something very specific, not just being thrown into a situation, be having like he's not very good at a romantic approach to an assignment. Mr. Noble tells Terrence's mom that he has a daughter with some learning issues, and it makes him really upset inside. He doesn't say what Terrence's strengths are necessarily, but he does say that he understands what it's like to have a child with learning disability, and he does say that he he says he completes assignments. He just doesn't do them well, maybe. But I don't want to say that he didn't say anything. Kashan behaves not very well in theater class. He doesn't respond well to the teacher. He's very like in denial of everything. He doesn't really put any effort in, but then he expects to like do better, and he gets kind of angry about it. So she said that he should take a theater class because he's very charismatic and lively, and he has very good vocals, like speaking abilities. He's very good at speaking, um, and like very vocal. He says that his 18. What does Terrence say about his relationship with his brother? He says that it's really important to him. They have a lot of similar interests. They care about each other a lot. They get along well and they like each other a lot. I think his strengths and like in this situation shows that some of his strengths are caring about someone. He's very loving, has a big heart, um, is good at like human interaction, like interacting with other people like in a respectful way. He's very kind and respectful, and he's got a huge heart. He mentions that he hasn't seen his. He says that he hasn't seen his dad in maybe a month, and he goes. Seems like he's mad at the world sometimes. He says. She Jada tells Mr. Podolner that you can take a class, you can teach black students, but you really don't understand the full concept of being black in a school. And she tells him that based off his memoir, he seems like he knows everything about what is to like be black and be a black student and to be dealing with these racial issues. Um, that's her issue with him is that he seems like he acts like he knows everything about how it is to be her or to be a black student, and really he doesn't know as much as he says because he doesn't know how it actually feels because he's never actually lived. He's just read about it or taken classes. She also said that he doesn't reflect his memoir, the stuff that he said in it doesn't reflect how he actually acts in the classroom. And she says another issue that she has with him is like she doesn't he doesn't see them all as her students. His students. It's like she doesn't like how he sees each student as like a black student or a white student or like groups them up in his head. Like he should just see them as his students as a whole. And that he like speaks to students based off of stereotypes. I feel like he doesn't really listen to her. He just kind of still sits there and defends what he does, and like he says, "I know this about you. I know that about you." When really he doesn't know anything. Like, yeah, it's a good assumption to assume that she's dealt with racial issues, but do you really know? Do you really understand? His problem is he thinks he does and he doesn't. Being in theater practice helps Grant socially because it gives him connections that he doesn't normally get to experience, like with other people and like different types of people, like especially with girls. I feel like for him, um, like attention from girls because he's interested in a girl and stuff. Like he doesn't have very positive experiences with that because the only time he's had a crush on someone that I've seen in this, that he like it didn't really go very well, and so he doesn't feel very confident. So especially maybe the attention being from the girls in the class, um, like it's like it helps him to like be able to understand girls better and like get advice from them, and like it helps boost his confidence and like stuff like that. Okay, so they determine to start at a certain weight level. They take all the guys in that weight class and they wrestle them against each other, and they don't have to pick favorites or like any. But it's not subjective at all. It's very objective. Like whoever wins against the other teammates that are in that same weight class gets to be the starter. He set him up to fail because he put him in the 220 weight class instead of the 190 weight class because he weighs 212, and it's 220. So somebody 220 is bigger than him and probably stronger than him and stuff. He puts him against the guy that they should put him against. They put Kendall against the guy that is supposed to be like the state champion this year, and he's like, Keyshawn couldn't perform in the theater class showcase because he was giving a 3-day out of school suspension because of a altercation or like an interaction, a negative interaction of some sort with a security guard. I think she handled the situation well, as in she like understood where he was coming from, and she had a lot of sympathy for him. But I think that she didn't handle it well at the same time because she was being too nice. Like she wasn't saying like you need to get out because she was supposed to call security if he even showed up. She obviously didn't. But I think she talked to him for too long. I think she needed to be very strict with him, but like saying the same things but in a more firm way instead of letting him just like kind of walk in and do whatever. Like in the situation, she wasn't in control. It seemed like he was in control. She had the ultimate say in his grade and stuff, obviously, which gives her a little bit of control. But he was controlling that situation, not her. And I think that she wasn't controlling the situation as well as she should have. And yeah, she felt bad for him, which is like I can appreciate her sympathy and like her willingness to like want to work with him because she does see him trying and she's acknowledging that, which is good for him. I think. But I also think that she didn't take control of the situation like she should have. Like I like that she acknowledges his hard work and his maturity in that situation. So the the behavior specialist says that um, the in school suspensions, the detentions, those type of things, like those punishments that like take the student out of the normal like routine of being in school and being in classes and everything, is the cause for the pipeline to prison. Look at this real quick. I think I like the way that Mr. Byers deals with behavior issues. He doesn't just like it's not just like punishment or no punishment. It's like he doesn't. He does a lot of positive reinforcement for the good things, which is important because it seems like instead of just punishments, it's just positive or negative reinforcement rather than like and like that or no, rather than positive and negative reinforcement, it's just punishments. It's not like they're working with the students or like they're teaching them how to actually be better or helping them get better. They're just saying, okay, here's a punishment. Now fix it yourself. um, he says that Keyshawn says about Mr. Byers that like he said that he will admit that he's not doing the best he can and he doesn't try hard all the time. but in that he does mess up, but then Mr. Byers like always uplifts him and shows him the right way to do things and helps him and motivates him to do well, and he feels like he does better when um, he's like.
Okay. So, you know, one time he called
I think that I think the behavior Dean telling Keyshawn not to visit Mr. Byers is ridiculous. I understand that it's like not necessarily where he's supposed to be at that time, but I think that instead of just saying no completely, he should work with him on it and say like, okay, like let's set up certain times where you go to be consistent with the schedule or something, not just follow like the typical procedure of like detentions and stuff. Like I think that he needs to realize that those aren't working for Keyshawn and for other students, and he needs to like help them out with what is working, because at the end of the day the end goal is what matters and what should count, and that's not what the behavior dean is doing. He's overlooking that final goal and not letting not making it harder for the students to get there, and or even if, like impossible for them to get there in a way, because he knows it's not helping them. um the movies, Grant went to see a movie. He saw see the Hunger Games with the girl. He said it went well. They both weren't nervous. They both had a good time. I think that socially, Grant has been helped by participating in the theater club, by getting that advice from girls, from a girl's perspective, which has helped him with this girl. And then he's also just gained social confidence, because especially like if at that age, like getting attention, positive attention, especially like from anybody, helps boost confidence and esteem, but especially from the opposite gender, assuming that the person is straight. Um, or maybe even if they're not straight. Like I think that getting attention from different people, like positive attention from different types of people, show that you are able to please and you're good enough for different types of people, and that boosts confidence and esteem, which helps performance in general, like in their life, helps happiness levels, everything. He also has just become more comfortable with himself from theater club, in his identity. He's again like he's more confident like in himself specifically like with his identity and stuff. Mm. Oh wait, never mind. Louder than a bomb is like a big like conference or like a big competition for spoken word. um Charles says about his dad that he was never there growing up. He missed huge events in his life. He was always waiting for him to come around, wanting him to come around, hoping for him to come around, and he never did. And it was just left him with a bunch of disappointment and like emptiness and not feeling good enough. And then he finally got over that, and now he's able to speak about it and he's grown from it, which I think is a beautiful thing. I think in school that affects him because he feels like he's not. He always has had this feeling of not being good enough anyway, like not being good enough for his own father to want to be in his life, to want to love him, to want to be there with him for him. And so I bet when he like, I'm assuming, I'm guessing, but like when he messes up, what if I think it could affect him in school, but like when he messes up at something and like he already has that feeling deep down of not being good enough for anything, anyone, because if he's not even good enough for his own father, then what could he be good enough for? It seems like it could be his mindset. And in school, this might affect him because when he messes up, then he just feels like he's not good enough. He's not doing anything right, and maybe that's why he's not good enough for his father to come. When really, like it's just his father, and that's his father's the issue, not him. But when he messes up, he might feel that it's him, that it's Charles, that he's the problem, not his father, because he's not good enough, because he isn't succeeding in everything. Is my guess if I had to guess, like how it could affect him in school. How would I use my knowledge of him in spoken word to get him more motivated in your classroom? I would get him more motivated in my classroom by, um, I would never like use that against him, not like against him, but like use that to push him because that's so personal. I mean, if I had a good enough relationship with him, like if I had a relationship with him like Mr. Podolner did, maybe I would say something about, or like what the spoken word professor did. Like if I knew about that and we talked about it like one on one and it was a very personal thing between, like I know it's a very personal thing for him, but if he was to trust me with that information, I might say stuff like come on, like let's do better, let's be better than who people like make you out to be, like let's be better than the expectations that are there for you that are set so high, and like, or like not so high, like I feel like I would be like, let's prove your father wrong, let's prove that you are good enough, let's shove it in his face and show him I am worthy, I am capable, um and I am successful, I am worth it, I am enough. But I would only ever use that to motivate him if like we talked about it individually and he had like that connection, that trust in me, because otherwise I would never ever obviously use that, but it would just depend on how close I was with him. Love how they made her a coach. The team building exercises were used to like obviously build the team up, bring them closer together. Also, I think that they were used. They did like how was they like did like fun stuff like they did exercise type things. They did like funny exercise like funny um like speaking exercises and stuff like that were like kind of like making fun of themselves or like stuff like that. Which I think why is just to get them to be more comfortable. Not even necessarily to build a team, like also to build a team, obviously, but to like get them more comfortable with each other, to get them to trust each other more, because they know each other on such a personal level. And yeah, and they prepared that by again just being comfortable with each other, like so that they can be on stage together, so they can like really bond and um, like instead of working so much on the speech specifically, they're working on like having like a chemistry that will get them. Oh, the end. I am done. Peace out, education class. That was a good class.